or you're actually also viewing the Earth 16 Comics Wire podcast. I'm your host, Brian of Earth 16, and I'm speaking with the creator of the comic Manchild. Let's see, hopefully I get your name right. Is it Nandor Fox?
Nandor Fox Shaffer. Yeah,
Nandor Fox Shaffer on his Kickstarter
yeah,
comic Manchild.
yeah.
How you been, man?
I've been all right. It's been an exciting couple of weeks. It's always stressful doing a campaign. This is my fourth one, so I'm used to it. But at the same time, you're always trying to, you just want it to be funded so you can relax, so that you can sleep a little better at night. But it's been really fun to share this out with people, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I mean, glad to have you on. I mean, I'm really excited to be talking about this comic too, and just how it's like told in like it's a really unique setup that you have here too. And I've read the preview, and it's told like in
Yeah.
two different storylines, but kind of like I feel it's kind of like a similar trajectory almost.
Yeah,
And
no,
yeah,
completely. It does tell two stories simultaneously, and that's a big mystery of the series is how these two stories connect because they couldn't be any farther from each other than they are because one takes place in this Silver Age universe of old, and the other takes place in the modern days. So it is this mystery that I want the reader to kind of figure out and find Easter eggs and things to where they can see, wait, like, how does this all connect, or how is he weaving these two stories together?
yeah, and that's what I like about it too. It's just that it's weaving between like supposedly like the Silver Age world and like the real
Yeah,
world, and how it's sort of like it's actually a tribute to Stan Lee, who
yeah,
was very instrumental in creating Marvel Comics, especially actually the instrumental in the Silver Age, and with the start with
yeah,
the Fantastic Four, and then followed by the other heroes. Well, of course, he was around the time too where Captain America was being made back in the World War II, and then like the Human Torch and all that though. But Marvel didn't
yeah.
really kick off until like the 1960s with the Fantastic Four and all that.
Yeah, completely. I mean, with Stan Lee, Marvel took a renaissance. I mean, I don't think without him, um, we'd have Marvel comics or comics as we know them. I don't even think we would have DC comics as we know them because they really worked off each other.
Oh, they
DC inspired
did.
Marvel to do things. Yeah, Marvel inspired DC to do things, and they really, that competition helped both universes and both companies to grow. And I think looking at the past and looking at the history of Marvel and how essential Stan Lee was to sort of more on the business side than the creative side, or at least
He was, yeah.
yeah, on both accounts there. Um, he was one of the few people that uh, took comics seriously to where he would go to colleges and he would speak about them and he would talk to people about them, and being the public face of this company and always wanting to break into Hollywood with his stories. So he was one of those pioneers, one of those people that uh, is very rare when it comes to comics, particularly because, especially at a time when they weren't very respected, you can
Oh
only
yeah.
imagine the uphill battle that he had to fight.
Yeah, I mean all those creators like Will Eisner, Jack Kirby. I
Yeah,
mean a lot of times even they themselves would be afraid to admit that it was almost like a blacklist where they would always call themselves animators
yeah,
rather than comic artists.
or
Yeah,
like cartoonists, like so they like do newspaper maybe strips, like some whatever they could do to not get that look, that
yeah.
like, oh, okay, you do that stuff, and that was a big reason why I wanted to tell this story because it's called man child, and there's so much in that word and so many ways you can. I started to look at it because it's usually a derogatory term. It's like, oh, you're a man baby, or you've never grown up, and
who else is gonna
And I
make
thought,
them?
yeah, I know. It's like it's such a shallow and bad word to and like expression to use for people that
Mm-hmm.
have inspired and entertained, children over generations and generations. And it's one of those very elitist type of uh, expressions that people use, and it's just like, yeah, like you guys have no imagination.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are reasons for it, and there are reasons for why people maybe feel that way towards other people, and there are people that I do believe sometimes get stuck. They'd rather be in the Marvel universe than in reality, and that's a really interesting perspective. There's a lot of people like myself that knows more about the history and like lore of Marvel Comics than I do about the history of my family or like my
Mm-hmm.
nation. It's like you get so obsessed with these characters and with the people they know and how these stories have been told over years and years that you just get really lost in it. You can escape into it, which is the beauty of it, but also is, I think, kind of psychologically interesting because some people can maybe take it too far.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, like it, I felt like that about, a lot of things, especially with, comics, Star Wars. I mean, it's an escape from,
Yeah.
this world that's just seemingly mundane. And, I remember speaking to a creator about, like, how it's usually good to have that escape, especially from this, what's going on right now,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Now more than ever, for sure.
yeah. And I feel that those who kind of scoff at comics, they don't really understand like how even comic books can become a medium. I mean, it's right now it's starting to it's just starting to gain respect
Exactly.
about being a serious
Yeah.
medium. And I think guys like Will Eisner, and other creators too, like Scott McCloud, even stressed us too, like how it's starting to get to the point where comics are becoming more of a serious medium, and how they're starting to be used everywhere. And I
Yeah.
think even with comics too, another part of why it's not so respected is because I mean, if you remember if you read in the 1950s where they had like the Austrian psychiatrist named like Frederick Wertham, I think it was, like
Yeah.
he was the one
Yeah.
who basically just crapped on comics, saying that well they make kids into delinquents and all that.
Yeah, I think that book was called Seduction of the Innocent,
Yeah,
that's what it
seduction of
was
the
called.
innocent.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and that's what led to the Comics Code Authority, which is something. If you see it, the cover of Manchild, the standard cover by the series artist Jay Mazar, it has the Comics Code Authority sticker on it, but we've changed it to where it says approved by the Independent Comics Code Authority. So we kind of wanted to like
Oh, I see that.
play on that. Yeah, we wanted to play with that a little bit. I wanted to. I thought because I thought
That's brilliant.
we're messing with it here, and I wanted to be a little ironic with it.
Yeah, and I think like it's so funny like how that I feel like that's like kind of like a a spoof on that, and like even if you read the
Yeah,
comic crossover from Image Comics,
yeah,
Donny Cates is a brilliant writer, by the way. Like they brilliantly like kind of go into that too, and especially with the comic owner. I forgot his name though, but he's wearing this shirt that says Wortham was right or something. I thought that was funny.
yeah. I love that. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
And that was it was funny because when I was writing Manchild, I was halfway through writing it, the series, or a little more than halfway, and then crossover started to come out, and I was reading it, and I was like, this is exactly the kind of um, celebration of the medium that I was kind of looking for, and kind of writing about, and trying to blend reality with fantasy, and how fun that could be. And I really enjoyed the first arc. I thought it was really well done.
Oh yeah, it was great, and like so many like just You know, I mean, with so many characters coming from the other publishers too, especially like
Yeah.
you see Madman, who
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Madman was
love
like
that.
that
Love
was
that.
a really cool one, and then you see like the other version of Doctor Strange, like all these characters
Mhm.
just coming about, and then like you see a little bit of Spider-Man and Spawn, I think, just like in a jail cell, just and then like you also hear about other comic creators. That's why I like, I mean, it's just kind of getting
Yeah.
back to the creators in a sense. But there's also the controversy going on around right now where creators are not getting royalties from the stuff that they've made. You know,
Yeah, completely, completely. That's a really. I'm really glad we're finally having that conversation. It's very overdue, but I think that it's time, for creators to stand up for their work. I mean,
exactly.
being a being a writer, being a creator, and it makes I've always wanted to work for Marvel and DC and work with bigger publishers. But then when I hear things like that, it makes me go, man, like that kind of
It
sucks.
makes you second guess. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah, what a bad deal.
it's like, yeah, I love these companies, but it's like if they're going to like tell me how to do my work, how to make my creation, I mean, I don't know, man. It's just
Yeah,
it reminds me of like what happened to Todd McFarlane, and this story really resonates, because they were telling him, these people in suits and probably have like college degrees from Lord knows where, but right? And they were saying that, well, you shouldn't draw Spider-Man's webs like that, and you definitely shouldn't draw his face like that. That's they're not
yeah.
gonna like that. And Tom McFarlane was just like, screw you, I'm gonna draw how I wanted to draw. And funny enough, when Todd McFarlane, handled Spider-Man, like it was making Marvel a lot of bank.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, he changed Spider-Man. He made so many people fall in love with Spider-Man again, and was like, well, Spider-Man's cooler than ever. And you still look at those comics and they're amazing. His art. I mean, is he kind of almost did a partial redesign of the character, and now everyone
Mm-hmm.
loves the big eyes, and they love the webbing and his style.
And the funny thing about that is, like, I think I brought this up in several podcasts too about McFarlane's Spider-Man. Like, the funny thing is, like, if you go to a store right now and you see the, Spider-Man or even a Venom shirt, they have Todd McFarlane's design on there. So it's like, it's
Yeah,
almost Todd
yeah.
McFarlane's way of saying, getting the last laugh. Like, see, told you, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so many people love Venom. I mean, it's like there's a lot of characters that he created, and a lot of Spider-Man uh, lore and new things that he did for the character that so many people, probably wouldn't have fallen in love with Spider-Man like they did, or so hard like they did without Todd McFarlane. And, he's one of the closest people I would say that um, sort of gives off that Stan Lee charisma because
Oh yeah.
he's such a pusher and a mover, and he's very entrepreneurial and he's very um, quick to speak on things and really articulate with what he's saying. And I love watching interviews with him because there's so much experience and so much history with him and so many things that he's dabbled in, with toys, with comics, with movies,
Oh
with
yeah.
everything that um, it makes you go, wow, like this guy's pretty cool.
Have you seen that documentary on the Sci-Fi Channel about Todd McFarlane? I think it came out like about a
Yeah,
year or two ago. It was
yeah,
really good.
that was excellent. Yeah, that was really good. I always like that's got to be one of the most fascinating periods of comics history is Image and that whole departure
Oh
and
yeah.
how things kind of fell apart, but then they were able to bring it back together. It's such a uh, like what a group of really willful people that really changed the way we thought about the industry. I mean, it's awesome.
I
It's
mean, they
really
basically
cool.
saved the industry if you think about it.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. And they started to I mean, without that, who knows if there would be the indie creator, like the independent creator that felt like they could make their own stories. I mean, they were the first, the first to really do it, to do it well.
And like also just to like put in, like you said, the indie creator, and also to put in the idea that creator owned. I mean, it's not owned by anybody trying
Yeah,
to some guy in a corporate suit or anything like that. But it's like because at the end of the day, the corporate people don't know what not to crap on them, but they don't
yeah. I
know.
mean, they're not. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're not in it.
they're not in
They're
it.
not at your. Yeah, they're not at your local comic shop. Seeing what's selling and what people are asking for.
Mm-mm.
They're up. Looking at the charts and I mean they're doing their job or whatever. But there's definitely a disconnect when it comes to business and creativity and what customers want for sure. I mean, there's a
It's not
lot
the
of
same. Yeah.
yeah. There's a lot of hurdles you got to go through.
And I feel like I always say this too, like, leave the creativity to the creators and leave the business to the businessmen, It's like
Yeah, yeah,
don't have any hand in creative decisions. Let creators have free reign. And I guarantee you most people would flock.
yeah. I mean, there's so many. There's been so many instances where creativity has been blocked by people that really have no idea what they're talking about, but they feel like they do, and um, it's hurt a lot of people's motivation to keep going. It's something that can really break you as a creative person because if you have to check all these lists and do follow this very strategic and kind of marketed list of rules, it can get really crippling. And I know that's the worst thing you can do to a creator is make them feel like they can't create. I mean, that's the whole point of
Yeah,
their
and like
job,
they're chained and all that, and then they're like trapped, and it's just you see it everywhere too, not just in comics, but you see it in Hollywood, you see it in pro
Yeah,
wrestling,
yeah,
and it's not just about we're not asking to like let the inmates necessarily run the asylum, but it's like
yeah,
at the same time though, if the creator knows what the fans want or like what people are looking at, or if they just want to do their stuff themselves, I would say let them do that because they're there to create. They're not there
yeah.
to like jump off a cliff or whatever.
Yeah, they're not there to be a slave. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, going back to the comic Man Child, I mean, I've read the preview and I thought it was really awesome, and that you cleverly put Stu Leeds as like basically he is Stan Lee.
Yeah, yeah. There's pseudonyms for different characters and for real people. I didn't want to run into any legal issues with that, so I thought I'll do my best to kind of give a little wink to the readers so that they understand who we're talking about. And yeah, it's really that whole scene, that whole sequence, and it's going to be explained more in the first issue and as the series goes. But that scene where Rufus, the modern day main character, is getting that phone call and getting like texts and stuff. That's really taken from my personal experience of when Stan Lee died and when that happened because I was at work. I was getting all these texts and all these phone calls, but I couldn't answer my phone or look at it because I was working and I was trying to do my job well. And then I look at my phone and I see all these missed calls and all this stuff, and I'm like, what happened?
Yeah.
And these people were trying to tell me because they know how much of a comic fan I am and how much I love Stan Lee. They were trying to tell me that Stan Lee died, and um, that was uh, that was just a devastating day and was a big inspiration for why I wanted to do this series and give back. And I thought I would start at a place of real sincerity and
Yeah.
personal experience and uh, start from there and see where the story went.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I do see that. I read that from the preview too, of like where he finds out, and
Yeah,
then speaking of the comic itself, the art is really Jack Kirby-esque. I feel it looks almost exactly like Jack Kirby's art.
Yeah, it's so Jay Mazar, the artist, he's such a like a diamond in the rough. He feels like, because it was so hard to find someone that didn't have to change their style to meet what I wanted. It was like, this is just his style. This is what he does. This is how he feels like, like what works best for him. And I looked at some of his other artwork, and he hasn't done a whole lot. He hasn't done really anything too superhero or too fantastical in nature when it comes to the medium, but he did some noir stuff and some like crime stuff, and it looked just it looked perfect. It reminded me of like old like pulp type of comics and old comic strips and classic styles like Steve Ditko and Kirby and Jim Steranko and different old artists from the past. And one of my favorite modern artists right now are people that kind of have that same style, like Greg Smallwood and Chris Samnee and uh, people like that or Tim Sale, that really, like, you get the
I like Tim
spirit
Sale's
of
art,
yeah, you
like
get the
Batman,
spirit of
The Long Halloween, and
yeah. The all the color books he did for Marvel, like Daredevil Yellow and Spider-Man Blue and Hulk Gray, like all those were amazing. Yeah, like Dark Victory and the other books he did with Jeff Loeb. But so
oh
yeah, I was
yeah,
looking for someone that could do that, and Jay Mazar was the only person that could do it. Like I'm a pretty thorough artist hunter. That's kind of how I call. That's what I dub myself, like an artist hunter, because I try to find people that are really just perfect for my story, and I'm very thorough, very picky, which is a good thing, but also it makes it really hard to find someone that you want to work with and that you feel like can do your story justice, and not only that, but elevate it. And he was the perfect person to do that. I don't think anyone else would be right for this project. And I kept telling him that because it was funny, because when I reached out to him, he was like, I don't really like have enough samples to where I can show you that I do all this superhero work, and I was just like, it doesn't matter, I know, like, you're like, I know, like, this is it, like, this is gonna be good.
yeah.
And he was like, okay, well, let's see, let's see how it goes. And it's just been so good. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the art's really awesome. I do like his art, and
Yeah,
especially just like the
and yeah,
storyline too, and like how, I mean, just like you said, it is a wink to the Silver Age, and I feel like the character, the Monarch Crier, if that's his name, shares several similarities with Spider-Man and
yeah,
the other heroes of the Silver Age. And then let's see, you got his
yeah. He
girlfriend, who's kind of like Mary Jane.
yeah, I mean, there's I'm glad you're picking up on those things, because it was really important for me to want to design and create a character that wasn't too derivative and wasn't too much of a copy, but someone that you feel like, if you picked up a comic from the '60s, you would look at it and you would go, "Oh, this fits perfect." Like he could appear, he could guest star in a Spider-Man comic, or he could guest star in a Avengers comic, and you'd see the Monarch Crier, and you'd be like, "Cool, like, where's he been? Like, he's a classic Marvel character, right?" And
Yeah.
that was really, yeah, that was really important to kind of give off that vibe. And he was inspired by a few characters. I tried to amalgamate my favorite aspects of different classic Marvel characters, like Spider-Man, Black Bolt, Ant-Man, um, and Fantastic Four, and just kind of find little instances, little parts of their costume that I could put in a uniform, so to speak, as much as possible, and have it feel natural to the character. And that was a big reason I used an insect, because a lot of the old characters are based on insects or animals or whatever. And so I thought,
Like
the monarch
Ant-Man,
butterfly is the most.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah. The monarch butterfly is probably the most iconic, butterfly. So I was like, this would be a perfect kind of thing for a superhero to have and to wear. And I've always loved butterfly wings. They've always been my favorite insect. And also, there's a lot of symbolism with the butterfly that I think can be really powerful and moving when it comes to when you keep reading the series that gets explored, and it's really awesome. It's been one of the best things for me to do research on and to explain and really kind of share with people.
Yeah, I really do like, I really do see a lot of those influences, and I kind of thought of like what, the Mothman from Watchmen, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he was like, it kind of reminds me of that too, and like how,
definitely, definitely. That was I was reading uh, before Watchmen. Um,
yeah,
um, oh gosh, why am I blanking on his name? The guy who did Justice League: The New Frontier, and he did the Minutemen, Watchmen.
Darwin
Uh,
Cook.
yeah, Darwin Cook. That's right.
He's another
I
favorite
don't know why.
artist.
Yeah, I don't know why I was blanking on him, but yeah, his style is another art style that I find to be just instantly magnetic and
And
fun and
iconic,
cool. And
yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's just really really good stuff.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And then like also like the characters too, like we have Rufus. I feel like, like we spoke about before we went on live, that Rufus, I feel like everyone can relate to Rufus, like, you know,
Yeah.
and
Oh
just
yeah, yeah. He is the ultra comic book nerd. He's the guy that is there at the comic store more than you are. He lives for this stuff, and he's and the description there on the campaign page, it says he's a little bit of you, a little bit of me, and there's a lot of relatability that you'll find with him. And him and his friends all hang out. His friends are a big part of the story too, and they all conversate and talk about comics and creators and the new blockbuster movie that's coming out and fun little cool things like that that you do with your friends and that I do with my friends. And, it's
yeah.
it definitely is a very down to earth story with him that has a definitely a major part to play with the Silver Age storyline. And as you read the series and turn a page, like you'll be reading a few pages of the Silver Age storyline. You'll turn the page and then you're back with Rufus and his friends. As they talk about comics and as they deal with their own personal struggles. And then you'll flip the page and then you're back. You're back in the Silver Age, and it has this really nice balance of fantasy and reality, just like our own lives do. When you wake up in the morning, you go to work, you do what you need to do, take care of your responsibilities, and then you get home and you read a comic or you watch a movie, and you're in it. You're in this other universe, and that's how this comic is structured and is presented to feel.
That's really, yeah, I like that too. It's just, it's kind of like it's kind of like how we live our lives basically as comic book fans,
Yeah,
and or just fans of anything
yeah,
though too, really. And like how we
for
have dual lives as people at work. We have our work identities, but when we leave work, then it comes to our comic book fan identities.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I felt like it, my personal experience was just that, I mean, I'm open about me being a comic book fan though, but there were times where I try to hide it too.
hmm.
But
Oh
it's
yeah, yeah.
like that's
Especially
tough
around
though.
girls, or if you're trying to impress someone, and you're like, oh, I don't want to talk about the nerdy things I like, because that might not be accepted, and it's like, that's not the way to be. You should be honest, and you should accept,
You
who
should
you
be
are, and other people
yourself,
should accept
yeah.
you too. Yeah, yeah,
And I
completely.
yeah. And I even remembered going to like a comic convention in Los Angeles, and
Mm.
there was this dude, and he was like with his girlfriend, right? And his girlfriend was all
Yeah.
glammed up and everything, but then he was just this comic book fan waiting in line to get an autograph from Haley Atwell. And
Uh
she seemed kind of, impatient, but it was just like she still stuck with him to the end. I was like, that's amazing, and that
Yeah.
gives me hope right there, because this
I
guy was just
know,
being
I know.
himself.
When you find someone like that, when you find a partner that shares your love for this stuff, it feels like a dream come true, and you're like, how is this possible? This is incredible.
I mean, she looked out of place. She looked like she could be like
Right.
the girl who would walk on Rodeo Drive, but then she's with this comic book
Yeah.
fan, and I'm like, dude, She was like, let's
Not fair. Not
go.
fair. Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was funny, but I mean, it's like, hey, there's hope.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Completely. Definitely.
And like, I feel like, are we gonna see some of that with Rufus too? Maybe like just something that
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different instances. Even in the first issue, but in the series, I'm actually writing the final issue right now. It's going to be 6 issues. It's a 6 issue limited series, and so I've been scripting it all out over the past couple of years, and um, there's a lot of instances where exactly things like that happen, where you're like, now wait a second, why is like, how did this guy like get that girl, or like, why is that girl hanging out with this guy, or
yeah.
um, why, uh, why did they write this storyline like that? Like that's not how it was, that's not how I wanted it to be done. If you're talking about comics and just about, he lives in his basement, his parents' basement. He's a virgin. He's in his 30s. I mean, he plays video games all the time. Like there's a lot of uh, there's a sense of, him being a little pathetic, but there's a sense of innocence and naivety to his character that all of us relate to, and we've all been there in some ways, whether it wasn't physically, but maybe emotionally or mentally, where we've been in that place where we just didn't fit in, and we weren't growing up as fast as other people around us, and we felt like we were always behind. And that's something that Rufus struggles with, and that you'll see him contemplate and look at with other people.
So a lot of self worth too, in a sense. I feel,
Yeah,
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 because like,
that's a theme. Yeah, that's a theme in my other stories. You'll see that a lot, and it's something that I think a lot of people struggle with, and it's something that I love tapping into, and kind of exploring what that means, and how that can affect your everyday life.
oh yeah, totally. I mean, like self worth. I mean, that's like a mental health issue. I mean, and I think a lot of
Yeah,
comics have decided to. I mean, recently most comics have started to explore that. I mean, we see it a lot with One Division and even Falcon the Winter Soldier, like just dealing with mental health, dealing with self worth, dealing with
yeah.
why do I exist and all that. And ooh, internet connection's unstable. Ooh. Well, anyway, it's still working, so we're still live. But like stuff like that, where I'm in Walking Dead too. Even for instance, like you see a lot of it with the character Eugene, who is just he's seen as this introverted weirdo, but yet he's so smart, and most of his
Yeah.
inventions help the community thrive and survive. And you see a lot of that in the comics too with Eugene. He's such an interesting character, and so yeah, I'm really glad that they're picking up on those issues, because mental health is one of those things I take very seriously.
Oh
Even
yeah.
like, yeah, it's because it's no joke, and many people don't they don't look at it like, meh, just get over it. It's like, no, it's not about getting over it. It's actually, you know, it's actually
It's a
getting through it. It's
process.
a process,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm
it
really glad
is.
that you
Yeah.
got comic book characters like Scarlet Witch, the Winter Soldier, and even with Superman and Lois, you got their son Jordan Kent, who's coming to grips with his mental
Yeah.
health.
Yeah.
And it's like, even though they have these extraordinary abilities, and Batman too, and they have these extraordinary abilities, it's like even superheroes struggle with mental health.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think we've seen that get more and more prominent in stories, because our culture has finally decided to talk about it more openly, and that's something that we haven't really been able to really talk about because it wasn't seen as important, and or as important as physical health, and it all ties together, it's all connected. And I think that's really cool that you have those characters that you can relate to. And Winter Soldier is one of my absolute
Oh
favorites.
yeah,
And I love in the MCU, and also in the comics with like Ed Brubaker's Captain America run, when you
that was
saw
a great run.
uh, oh yeah, that's what got me into comics. That's what got me starting to get them monthly, and starting to get the Captain America title monthly, and seeing Bucky, become the Winter Soldier and come back as this killer. He was a cold-blooded killer, and then have to try to redeem himself, and go through all that past trauma. I mean, that was just one of the best character arcs that you could give a character.
It reminds me a lot of Damian Wayne, and like Grant Morrison's run on Batman Robin got me into comics, and just with that inclusion of that
Yeah,
character is someone who I can relate to, especially coming from a family that is just broken or split, from the
yeah,
Waynes and the Al Ghouls. He was just trying to find his identity, and still is to an extent, but just
yeah,
trying to find his place in this world, not just as Batman's son or Talia al Ghul's son, but just as his own person. And
yeah, yeah,
yeah, and like that must have taken a lot of strain on his mental health in a sense, where he was bred to kill, and then Batman tells him there's a whole nother way to enforce justice. It's not like by killing. And I thought that was really interesting, and that's what kind of got me into comics well into like my college years. I mean, I was into them in and out though, but then I didn't really like start fully reading them until I reached college, and I was just like, okay, I have all this time right now. I can totally read them. Because back in high school, I was just hell bent on like doing so well academically and everything.
yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah. I
mean,
mean,
they're that
there's
powerful.
I think that's really interesting, because there's a lot of people that stop getting comics when they go to college. So I think that's really cool that you got them, or got into them even more. And
Mm-hmm.
as I've grown up, that's how it's been. Like, I started getting them as a kid, and then probably when I turned around 13 or 14, um, I really got serious and more serious, and then it's just been, it's been history since then. It's like, yeah, like this is a part of my life now, and always will be. It's amazing. It's an amazing community. It's an amazing medium, and there's so many amazing writers and artists that are a part of it, that you can't help but stand back and stand in awe and be so appreciative of it.
Yeah, and yeah, and like just it's just amazing community. It's a really amazing community, and like the stories are amazing, and I
Yeah,
didn't I mean in high school, I mean, I did get into them though, but like I didn't collect any. Like I would only like read whatever
right.
I could off the internet, or off of
Yeah.
Wikipedia. That was like, that's how I kind of knew about some stuff. But then when college came along, I was starting to read them more.
Yeah, yeah. And then when you start getting your own money, and getting your own job and stuff, it's like, yeah, you can buy whatever you want. You don't have to ask your parents,
Nope.
or hey, can you buy this $3-4 comic, or this $25 graphic novel? It's like, all you have to do is ask yourself, like, can I afford this? Can I get this?
Yeah. Yeah, totally, man. So, we're about almost done. Can you tell us more about the Kickstarter for Manchild?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, we have 17 days left, going on 16 days really soon here. Uh, So we're in the last portion of the second week. We're almost halfway. We're getting close to the halfway mark, which is really good with 2 weeks left. So I'm excited about where we are with the campaign. I think it's going pretty well. And there's a lot of great rewards there that people can choose from. You can get the digital PDF of the first issue for $5, and then you can get the book itself for $10, and it's free shipping in the U.S. So if you get a single issue, it's just $10. There's no extra for shipping. So you're basically getting the book for $5 or $6 if you want to like include shipping in that cost there. But so that's a really good deal. And then the variant covers are amazing. You have some amazing Marvel, DC, and Image comic artists that are doing variant covers for the book. You have Welby, who worked with Alex Ross and Jim Kruger on Marvel's X. You have Tom Riley, who worked on Immortal Hulk and Marvel Snapshot's X-Men. You also have Tony Harris, who's an Eisner Award-winning artist for Starman in the 90s, and he also worked with Brian K. Vaughan on Ex Machina for Vertigo. And then Nick Pitaro, who worked with John Hickman on Manhattan Projects for Image, and who's also doing Leviathan with John Layman right now for Image Comics. So just like, amazing talent, and I can say that because I've been fans of these creators and these artists for years, and to be able to work with them on this project has been a dream come true for me. And you can get all those variant covers if you want. There's a bundle where you can get all of them. There's also a bundle where you can get Man-Child issue 1 and also all my previous books. So Seasons volumes 1 and 2, which I have over here on my right, and then Lifeline over here. And those are graphic novels. They're over 100 pages. They're well worth it, quality books, and you're getting everything for $85. You can also get drawn into the story. So if you want to be in the Man-Child story, you can get your likeness drawn into it.
That's cool.
Awesome. Yeah. And then you can get original art from the comic. So that's the biggest tier. And then you get. Well, what's really cool is every tier builds off of each other. So the higher the tier, the more stuff you get, and you get everything in the previous tiers the higher you go. So that's how we built it. And so if you listening to this or watching this and want to really help us out, it's you get so much for the price that you pay, and it's a really good deal. And you can be forever immortalized in this comic book series, and I mean, I think that's a really cool deal.
That's awesome, man. And yeah, so for you, those of you who are viewing or listening, you can definitely check out the Kickstarter at kickstarter.com/projects and a whole bunch of numbers. So, but if you type in Man-Child, it should pop up, and then just pledge over to this Kickstarter. It's halfway done. It's actually at almost 2,000 right now, from what I'm looking at, and with just about two weeks left. So definitely get your copy, get your variant, and just back to this awesome comic.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the cool thing too, is I have all this planned out. So if you're worried about, oh, is he actually gonna like do anything with this, or is it gonna go anywhere? It's like, yeah, it's gonna go places, and it's turned into something that I'm so excited about. That this is one of the most exciting things that I've ever written and ever done. So you can only imagine the series just opens up from here, and it becomes this incredibly sophisticated way of looking at comics in the real world and how they relate to each other, and bridging the dream and the dreamer, and how fantasy is a beautiful thing for our lives, and how we can use our imaginations to better ourselves as people. And it's a series that is just incredibly for the comic book community. And if you love comics just like at all, like this is your book. Like, you will love this. You will like this book.
Awesome. So that's awesome. So Nandor, where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Nandor Fox, so just my name. You can find me on there. You can find me on Instagram at Nandor Fox. And then also I have my YouTube channel, which is Foxhole Comics, and I update that weekly or bi-weekly. I do streams with my artists. I also do video topics about comics that I like, and always give updates there. So I really encourage people to go to Foxhole Comics on YouTube, and they can check out my videos. Um, and yeah, I'm usually on social media pretty frequently, so if anyone has any questions, they can always reach out to me, and I'm happy to answer any of them.
Sounds cool. And you can definitely follow my podcast at Earth 16 Podcast, and you can follow me on my personal Twitter at Brian of Earth 16, and same with Instagram too. So you can check out for more content and for episodes like this. And I'm definitely on Spotify and Anchor, and then I also have my own YouTube channel as well, Brian of Earth 16, or excuse me, Earth 16 Comics Wire, which is probably now going to be called Geeks Wire, but there it is. So yeah. So thank you so much for being on, Nandor. And remember, constant listeners, be sure to check out his Kickstarter on Manchild. There's so many variants, and I personally already pledged, and I'm going to get the variant I'm going to get is the Tony Harris variant. That's the one I purchased.
Yeah.
So the cover looks awesome. So, yeah, if you have any, if you're really interested in getting it, I would definitely pledge. It's right there. And yeah, that's pretty much about it.
Awesome, man. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It's a pleasure, man. And thank you so much for being on. We hope to have you back again, especially for a project coming up. We'd definitely love to have you back.
Yeah, that'd be excellent. I'll be back for issue 2, so that'd be really cool.
Awesome. All right, constant listeners, thank you so much for listening. This is Brian Vert 16, and
and I'm Nandor Fox Shaffer. Yeah.
all right, this is we're signing out. Thank you so much for listening and for viewing. You have a good rest of your day.